Hi, friends. It is one of your co-founders, Kaitlin O'Malley from the 21 Day Restart. I am super excited today because I am interviewing Dr. Kate Henry, who is your naturopathic doctor, your nutrition expert. So I'm going to invite her on now. And yay! Hi, Dr. Kate. So I'm going to invite her as a host, and we're going to interview her background, how she got into her business, and how that relates to what we do with our 21 Day Restart. So she's jumping on now.
Hi.
Hey, hello, my friend. How are
I'm
you?
good. I'm good. Let me just turn my camera.
Yeah, you take your time. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, TGIF.
Hey, TGIF. Man, did we need a Friday this year. We only have a few more.
I know, it's crazy.
So crazy. Okay, so I'm so excited to talk to you because I am really just so enthralled every time we speak with regard to just your nutrition expertise. And one thing that I love about you is how you explain things and like the analogies and similes that you use that really help really complicated things make sense to me. And so you obviously have known each other for a long time. So I would love for you to just start back from the beginning of how you got into this field, kind of what led you to start on your, journey to becoming a doctor. And I think everyone would really benefit from hearing about that.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So, I am a naturopathic doctor, right? Which means I specialize in functional medicine. And a kind of a key difference between a naturopathic doctor and a typical doctor, like an MD or DO that you might see for primary care, is that we have a lot of training in nutrition and nutritional biochemistry. And that's because that gives us a really good understanding of what the human body needs to work and thrive and to be in good health, both mentally, emotionally, and physically. So I chose to go into this type of medicine because I actually had a lot of experience with traditional medicine, right? So your primary care, your specialists, for about a decade growing up. I was a pretty sick kid. I had lots of stomach aches, couldn't sleep, really sad. And I don't think many people would have known it to look at me, but life was kind of a struggle for me. And I just remember wishing so badly that I would feel better, getting to meet some really great doctors, and I felt like nobody had the answers for me. And then in college, I met a functional medicine doc. And pretty much right away, she knew I had celiac disease, ran the test, diagnosed me, and within about 3 days, I was better. Like all of my
Wow.
bloating, stomach aches, body image issues, depression, insomnia started to resolve. I actually hadn't gotten a period. I was 21. I had never had a period before in my life.
Oh my
That month,
gosh.
my hormones, yep, regulated. That autoimmunity in my system had caused so many issues over the years that as soon as I removed the barriers to healing, I healed really quickly. So
Wow.
for those of you who are out there feeling like you have unexplained hormonal issues, I get you. And I just thought, wow, I want to do this for other people, right? Like for other people who are struggling, for other people who feel lost, who don't really understand the role of nutrition in their health, right? Or of biochemistry in their health. I want to do that. And so I decided to go to naturopathic medical school at the advice of the doctor who actually diagnosed me. And
So
here I am
cool.
today.
So
Yeah.
cool. I think if you could just talk a little bit more about that experience, because I think, and I don't know how to put this in the most politically correct way, but I think sometimes people look at us and think that we are like unicorns, because like you're beautiful, you're healthy, you have high energy, you feel great. I'm in good shape, I work out all the time. And I think people look at us as coaches and say like that, and maybe this isn't everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but I think people look at us and think like, well, that's great for you, but that's not been my experience. Like, I don't wake up with energy. I do have gut issues. Like, I can't motivate myself to work out. I don't look like either
Right.
of you. And so I think
Right.
sometimes there's this facade that like we are, here where the grass is really green and other people are, the
Mm-hmm.
grass is brown, and we just keep telling them that their grass can be green too. And they're like, but that's not been my experience. So can you talk a little bit more about like how like you can relate to our clients and like you said, where you've been personally, and just how you think that helps them as their coach through their 21 Day Restart?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so for me, like I said, like I never am someone who, just because I have a doctorate, it doesn't mean I need to replace any of your current team, right? So you probably have a primary care who you really love, who does their job really well. You have a therapist who's great. You may even have a nutritionist who's doing awesome, but there's still something missing, and you feel like nobody's put all the pieces together. If you're a high performer, you've probably just been like dealing with some inner struggle of like, why can't I just make it through these workouts? Or why aren't I happier? Or why aren't I this? And my job is to really come in and do the in-depth analysis that it takes to figure out what's still in the way. Because that's why naturopathic medicine was created, because we have this gap in healthcare where we do things really well in America. We're like, if you're in a car accident or you need to be stitched up, we have great ERs. You should go there. Don't come to me, But if you need more, if you leave the primary care and you got your pills and maybe some referrals, but health happens like the other 364 days of the year that you're not at the primary care, and you still need somebody to tell you how to be healthy, not just how to not be sick, but how to be healthy and how to thrive. That's why naturopathic medicine was really created, to meet that need. So I had that need certainly as a patient when I was younger, before I became a doctor. And so I really identify with that place of struggle. And I think we are both very blessed to work with amazing individuals who are changing the world. They're kind-hearted. They're like instantly become friends and family to us, I feel like. And sometimes it's those people who like, you never would know that they're only sleeping 5 hours a night. You would never know that they've got terrible migraines, right? Or really bad stomach aches. And it is my joy to remove that struggle from them, because then you see them take off. Then it's easy to be who they are and change the world. And then they're not sad and struggling, because I always feel like you should move towards what breaks your heart, right? Like that is usually your medicine, right? If your heart breaks over something, then that's part of where your power lies as an individual in changing the world. And so for me, when people are struggling, when they're sick, it's like, oh, I get it. And if I can help somebody like that, it makes everything worth it. So I think in terms of, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love that, like move towards what breaks your heart, because for me, it's like people not feeling confident and not feeling comfortable in their skin. And when I see that, I'm like, if you could only experience like the joy of exercise and like the accomplishment that comes from doing a really challenging exercise, or seeing yourself being able to lift more weight, or just physically being able to complete a 60-minute workout, I mean, that like confidence and that just like adrenaline and just like positive, working out is challenging, just as changing your health and your life is challenging. But when you see someone just like light up and just feel better, it's like, that like, it breaks my heart seeing people who are overweight who feel like this is what I'm destined to be, and this is how my body is destined to look, and I'm just destined to be large and lethargic and unhappy with the way I look in the mirror. And I just gravitate towards that person and just saying like, just by moving this way and moving that way, and for you eating this and eating that, you can look and feel so much better. And it's not about achieving these norms, these societal norms. It's about, like you said, the best version of yourself. So you are really thorough, and that's one thing that I love about you. So I think it would be helpful for people to hear about your intake form and your process, and kind of like, okay, someone signs up for the 21-day restart. They're like, I need a reset. I need to get my exercise and my nutrition together. And they're like, okay, what does that look like working with you from like the beginning?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you guys know, like before I switched to online intake, my intake was paper and it was 16 pages long. And it's for a reason, and it's not terrible, but it's thorough, because I want to know your history, birth until now. I want to know every time you moved into a new apartment, when your apartment had mold, what your diet has been like over the years, not just today, but over the years, because nutritional deficiencies build up over time. I want to know how your mood was when you were a kid versus now, right? I want to know your whole history. There's no such thing as too much information. And then we go head to toe, every single symptom in the body. So from headaches to vision changes to problems with your heart rate or your gut or your joints, it all matters, because I'm doing the medical detective work that I need to do to find the root cause of your illness, right? So it takes a lot of time and a lot of information gathering. And actually, people find it to be enjoyable to fill out the intake, because how many of us really sit down and do a whole inventory of our life and our health ever. Most of us don't ever have an excuse to do that. And a part of the intake, because I do mind body medicine as well and biofeedback, I do ask about resiliency. I ask about ACE scores. I ask about how you're breathing, because we're going to use mindfulness and meditation to heal you if that's part of your picture. So for a lot of people, it's therapeutic. I've had people write to me and say, like, I've never even said this many words to my own family about my life story as I just typed out to you in my life timeline section. And it matters to me because I treat whole people, right? I'm not just treating your gut or your muscles. I'm treating your whole self. And I ask that many questions as well because, and we're the same way, right? We want to know what matters to the client. So guys, like the instant we meet you, we're on your team. And what matters to you is what matters to us. So for one person who walks in the door, they want to be able to make it through a 60-minute workout because they want to have more energy to run after their kids or their grandkids. For another person who comes in, they want to cut 4% body fat. You know why? Because they want to look great in their bathing suit in the summer, and that's how they do them. Okay, like we can do both of those things. It's what matters to you, what brings you joy, because joy is your medicine. Your joy is what helps you heal the world. So it's a very lengthy process, but it's great because by the time we meet, people understand that I already kind of know them a little bit and that I care and that I want to know more. And the intake up front allows us to be really efficient with our time in the visit, a lot of which is spent with me educating people. Okay, here's what you're doing. You appear to be doing really well. Here are some gaps I think that we can fill to help you get to the next level and feel a lot better. People often cry, I would say, during the intake, especially when I say to them, hey, like, you sent me your blood work. Did anybody ever explain to you what this means? And the fact that, like, you are so anemic that you're not getting oxygen to your cells, and that's why you're tired and sad, and we can fix it. You know, or like something as simple as that. So, yeah, sorry. I hope that my answer as well as my intake are both very long.
Very long. No, we love that. And one thing that I found really interesting when I met you and I started working through kind of building this 21-day restart with you was about trauma. And one thing that my personal training clients that have worked with you as their nutrition expert and naturopathic doctor, one thing that they're really surprised is that you talk to them about their trauma and that it's in your intake form. And a lot of them know that that guides some of their decision making, but they didn't know how much it internally affects them past what we know are like physical boundaries. Like maybe you're like a little closed off with people of the opposite sex, or maybe you act a certain way in relationships, but it changes your biology. Can you talk about that a little bit, either with clients that we've had and how that's affected them, or just the role that trauma plays? Because, and I'll extend my question this way, our goal is to help people heal. And in 21 days, there's so much that we can accomplish. Our goal is not to get lifelong clients from this program. It's to heal them, get them feeling better, and get them moving on. If they end up wanting to have consultations with you continuously while they work through things, obviously we're there for them. If they want to continue training with me because they want to keep up this momentum that they've created, obviously we're there. But we're really trying to address these underlying issues, like you said, to use, movement and food as medicine. So just about trauma, because I think so many people are walking around having experienced trauma who, like you said, sometimes don't really ever talk about it.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. And it's funny because my first week in medical school, we were taught about the link between trauma and chronic illness, first week. And we were given the questionnaires that we can use to screen our clients for trauma and resiliency scores. And we were taught what to do in response to it. But I actually sought out a lot of additional training throughout school because I wanted more tools. And what we were taught that first week in med school when they talked to us about trauma is that the reason that trauma impacts chronic health is because for a few reasons. So when you've had traumatic events happen to you, your nervous system responds to keep you safe. And a lot of times it will either respond with a shutdown response or a fight or flight response. The third response is a really like sort of healthy engagement, but that only happens when we're safe. So usually we choose one of the two. When you have ongoing trauma or repeated trauma, sometimes you can get stuck. So you can get stuck in a really immobilized shutdown state or stuck in a fight or flight state. And it's not even so much stuck in your day-to-day movement, but that can become your habitual response to any sort of stress, right? And so what we can see is people who come in and they grew up in a home where they really need to be on high alert all the time, right? Maybe they had a parent who was an addict or an alcoholic, or maybe things were really unstable. And so they're very practiced at noticing their environment, at reading people's body language, at staying alert. And relaxing feels dangerous to them because it wasn't safe for them to do as a kid, maybe. And so that can be a really great superpower. It can make you a great cop or a great lawyer or a great analyst, but it might make it difficult for your body to rest and heal, because that's when a lot of our healing of our tissues happens, is when we're relaxed, because our nervous system has two modes, sympathetic or parasympathetic. And parasympathetic is where we're able to do all of our healing of our tissues. So if you're somebody who doesn't spend a lot of time in parasympathetic, you will start to notice that you get these chronic inflammatory conditions. And that's what that study that we learned about in medical school taught us. So my job is really to figure out, okay, what are you more practiced at? Are you more practiced at fight or flight? Let me help you learn to relax safely. And it's not, so we can do as much talking as is useful for people. I do a lot of listening in my appointments, but a lot of it is actually data-based and really active. So we can use your heart rate and your breath and movement and vagus nerve exercises to really help you train your nervous system just like you would train a muscle. And I think what people find the most healing about these conversations is that I explain to them why they're having the symptoms they're having, why their upbringing gave them certain strengths, and then the weaknesses that can come with those. And so a lot of times people intuitively, they'll know that this has been going on, but they didn't have a name for it. And if it was coming with weaknesses, they just thought, well, I just can't relax because I'm just anxious, or I'm stressed out, or I'm irritable. And when I explain to them, it's not your fault, right? That is like the moment where the shame can really drop and people can really start to heal.
I'll give an example of that. So we have a mutual client, someone who has worked with you, has worked with me, and has done our 21-day restart. And she's really nervous of heights, afraid of heights. And something as small as, we all know in the fitness community that box jumps can be really challenging. So jumping up on a bench or a box, normally it's because we're scared to fall. But this client really struggled to even do step-ups onto a short box because she was afraid of the height. And there was something that you two worked through kind of some of those analyzations that you did to help her realize that there's actually a deeper issue going on. And we don't have to really talk about this client specifically, but it's such a good example of, she has had this issue of heights her entire life, and no family member, no doctor, no one has ever talked to her about what that's doing to her body and a way to fix it. And when I tell you how elated she was to tell me that there's something really basic that she can do, I think it's a type of contact or a type of glasses that she can wear that are literally essentially going to cure her fear of heights, which is going to do so many things for her, not just in the exercise space, because for me, I'm like, heck yeah, we can do so much more. But it's going to change her life. Like, she is afraid to step off the curb. And so anyway, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that or you feel like that was enough explanation, but that's just something where it's truly the combination of traditional medicine and naturopathic medicine that looks at that person as a whole. And, you're not just prescribing her like a pill or a supplement. Through your intake form and your conversations with her, you ask these really intuitive questions to find out that there's a really simple solution to this lifelong problem that she had, which is what she thought was a fear of heights.
Yeah, so for her, it was actually a neurological issue. So there are some questions you can ask and some at-home tests that you can do to figure out that it was a problem basically in the way that her eyes were communicating with her brain that made it difficult to judge depth. And actually, this is not uncommon, just doctors don't happen to screen for it very often. So, and this is what's interesting, right? It's like we both have really high functioning clients. And so people will make stories to explain what's going on with them. And a lot of times it's at their own detriment. So they're like, oh, I'm just afraid of heights. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just can't get over it. And for me, it's like, well, no, actually, I think you have this condition. And why don't we experiment? by doing a treatment for it. And if it gets better, then it wasn't psychological at all. It was neurological. And that was the case for her. And that is the case for so many things, right? Like, I think a lot of us discount ourselves and we're like, oh, I'm just lazy. I'm just tired. I'm just always sleepy. I'm just not motivated. And I'm thinking like, you haven't eaten anything that contains like choline or potassium in 6 years. Like you don't feel well. That's what's wrong. Your cells don't have enough energy. So I would encourage you guys, like if you're feeling stuck, give me a shot. I might have an explanation for what's tripping you up that you just don't know because you haven't been through medical school or gotten any training in medical nutrition. So yeah, hers was totally neurological.
Yeah,
it wasn't psychological at all. Mm-hmm.
I love it, and it's such a cool feeling to be able to say, like you said, like you're completely normal. You know, your body's response is something that is been seen before. It's studied. I'm coming to you with this really empathetic, emotional, discussion, but it is data based. And there are, I think one thing that's great about you is you're always willing to send like a link or an article or something that I can read up on, because especially in, 2020, about to be 2021, we're all pretty informed consumers.
Yes.
And I know that when I first started personal training, that was a real barrier for me, because people really came into our sessions thinking that they knew what they needed for their body and that they knew what they should be doing. And oftentimes they were just a little misguided. And I think it's because there's so much information out there. So one thing I think will be really helpful for you to talk about would be kind of what your process is. So you have this really long intake form that someone fills out. It goes from birth to now. You're going through emotional situations, you're going through diet, and all those stressors. And then you have your call with them, your intake call, and you've done a lot of work leading up to that call. So you've created what you think is going to be their nutrition plan. You've kind of diagnosed or sort of, worked through some of the things in their intake form to say, okay, this is what I think you need. And then you have this exploratory call. And then what happens after that with regard to the 21-day restart?
Yeah, so during the call, I'll explain to them what I found based on my nutrient analysis of the diet that they sent to me. So everybody sends me at least a 24-hour intake. So during the appointment, I'll show them, hey, here's what you're getting a lot of in your diet. Here are the gaps. Here's how that could be related to your symptoms. I've designed you a food as medicine plan that includes the foods you told me are your favorite and that you need to eat every day, but also is designed to work around that to fill in the gaps that you may have. Like, so say you're somebody who you need ice cream every night, you need your donut 3 times a week, and you are never going to eat quinoa. You've told me that in the intake. We've talked about it during the visit. And so your plan includes your donut. It includes ice cream, but it also includes other foods that are going to meet the other nutritional needs you've got. So people leave really understanding why they're doing what they're doing, and they don't feel like they've got a meal plan that's strict. Most people's feedback to me is like, wow, this is a lot of food. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to eat all of this, which makes me happy, because the alternative is, and what most of us think is going to happen when we go see someone who's an expert in nutrition, is we're like, oh my God, I'm going to have to like starve myself for the next 4 weeks. No, like never. Yeah. So really, we start them off with a food as medicine plan. And it depends, right? Like if I really feel like during the appointment somebody needs a lot of magnesium, more than they'll be able to get from their diet, because maybe they hate nuts and seeds and they're never going to eat those, or a lot of omega-3s to counter the inflammation, we'll talk about all the different ways that they can include those. So it might turn out during the appointment that they're not going to eat certain foods, so I'll recommend supplementation with a pharmaceutical grade supplement that they can get at cost through a link that I'll send them. And then we'll talk a little bit about their fitness goals too, right? Because you and I then touch base, and I'll say, hey, Kaitlin, like, what did you talk about with this client? Like, kind of what are you thinking? Here's what I heard. They're at some risk for osteoporosis. I'd really like for them to start lifting weights. I think for their nervous system, doing yoga like at least once a week is going to be good for them. And usually you're already like, I'm on it. I already got it. I knew that. But then they get a plan that combines it all.
Right.
And the goal is that they take that plan and it works pretty much for the rest of their life. Like, it's because it is so sustainable, because it's not extreme or deprivation based, they get immediate results. They feel a lot better. And that's because we're giving them like kind of the key to what their specific body needs to function well. So really then the next 2 check-ins after that are just fine tuning. So maybe they'll come in and they'll say, I'm getting bored of that oatmeal smoothie combo. or whatever, like what other breakfast can I eat?
It's
Or,
too chunky. I don't like it.
yeah, like, and I'm like, add water. And they're like, whoa. Yeah, so we'll fine tune from there. But the
Perfect.
goal is at the end, they're empowered, right? Like we've given them everything we've got and they're ready to take life and go.
I love it. Well, I want to ask one question, and selfishly, this is a question that I hear a lot and that I had, and I think that if we've had questions or experiences with certain doctors or throughout our life, I think it's typical of other people, especially people who we are likened to. And so my question is about supplements. And so I'm
Yeah.
in the fitness industry. I know supplements is one thing, and I think nutritional vitamin type supplements are separate. So when I think about supplements, I went through this phase where I took whatever supplement I was given. And what that means is I took any pre-workout that was given to me. I took whatever BCAAs that my friends were taking. And I took whatever vitamins that I saw online that like someone who was fit was taking. And so I then went through a phase where I completely stopped taking all supplements because I said, I don't want to put anything foreign into my body. The FDA doesn't regulate supplements and vitamins, and so I said it must not be safe and healthy. And so I'm going to stop, and I'm going to try to get everything I need through food. Mind you, I was not working with a nutritionist, so that plan was doomed to fail. But I said I'm not going to take a supplement because instead of putting all these pills in my body, I'm just going to eat whole natural food. So I would love to hear you talk about supplements from your perspective as a doctor, because I think when people hear supplement, they might have an adverse reaction to that based on what
Yep.
they know. So if you could talk about that, I think that would be great.
Sure, yeah, and you're absolutely right. So there are a lot of supplements. So the FDA doesn't regulate supplements in the States, which means that there are a lot of things that you can buy that are not safe, that don't contain what they say they contain, and that may actually contain harmful ingredients. So there's been cases throughout the years, I'm sure people have heard about, where like tryptophan supplements had mold, or there was a supplement that was supposed to be gymnema to lower people's blood sugar, and it was really bulgur wheat that somebody had dyed orange. Like, it can get crazy out there. So when we use supplements, and if we use them, and I'll talk about that in a second, but if you're going to use them, you must pick a company that has a pharmaceutical grade supplement, right? So they've got regulated manufacturing processes, and they submit to third-party verified testing. So a third party will come in that they have no relation with. They're not allowed to bribe them. They're not allowed to basically even talk to them. And they test their supplements to see, is there any contamination? And do they actually contain exactly what they're supposed to contain? And then those supplements, typically a lot of them are actually only available to doctors like me to prescribe. I think we're getting a lot better. A lot of those companies are now opening up so that people can buy them on Amazon direct. And I think that's the way we actually need to move, because everyone has a right to buy good quality supplements. It shouldn't just have to be from a doctor. But you really want to make sure that you're picking a well-regulated company when you're choosing who you're buying your supplements from. But the more important step is yes, you should be using food as medicine as your first stop, right? And so in order to figure out if you're doing that, you have to do an in-depth analysis. And most of the trackers online are only telling you, are you getting enough protein, fat, and carbs? They're not telling you about thiamine, all the B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin A. So I use a software that tells us that, and I share it with my clients for free. And then they track their food, and I can see it, and then we can see all 80 nutrients that we're tracking.
Right. So
And that's where
I want to interrupt you just to highlight that point, because when a client or us, when we, in our, pre-professional experience said, okay, I want to work on my diet. So for me, I was like, I don't want to take any supplements because I don't trust them. So I'm going to start tracking what I eat. And what I did was I tracked my calories, number one, and then I tracked my macros, which are what you just mentioned, which are carbs, protein, and fat. And I was like, okay, so for my specific goals, I looked up what percentages of my calories should be protein, what percentage should be fat, and what percentage should be carb. And I tried to eat that every single day. But to your point, I didn't know what my micronutrients are. So all those other things that you listed, I'm going to go with vitamin A and vitamin D because that's what I know. And I didn't know that, for example, because I was being vegan, I wasn't eating any fish, that I wasn't getting any vitamin D, or I forget what it was.
omega 3s.
omega-3s, and I wasn't getting enough iron. And so those are things that I just didn't think about past taking a multivitamin that, again, I didn't know if I was getting from a qualified source, and I didn't know if it had the right ingredients in it for me. So anyway, so continue. So supplements with regard to, like you said, the app that you use, and then tracking micronutrients.
Yep. So we're going to see in your diet, like, what are you doing really well? So you were probably getting a ton of antioxidants from all the plant foods you were eating, but then the gaps that you had were ones you just mentioned, omega-3s, iron. Probably, we had to probably check your overall protein too, I would imagine. And then we would design a custom plan to get you that, right? So sometimes it's just add some chia and flax seeds to your diet. Those are vegan sources of omega-3s. You don't have to eat fish. Right? Or if you're willing to eat fish, here are the top fish that are really replete in omega-3 that you can eat in these amounts to get exactly what you need every day. So that's how you really individualize medicine, and that's when it works beautifully, because you're not wasting money on the stuff you don't need, and you're only supplementing with the things that your otherwise healthy diet has some gaps in. So that's why there's no one size fits all, and that's why we do functional medicine as part of this program in the beginning. You're not just getting like a standard plan or like a protocol. It really requires that in-depth intake so we can see, what are you eating and what do we need to supplement with.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, well, we were going to try to keep these under 30 minutes, so we're going to cut it off there, but I guess I want to leave with something fun. So what is like a fun example? It could be a client story. It could be your own. Like, what's come out of the 21-day restart for you, aside from like joy and happiness and like changing lives? Give me an example of something, whether like someone that you helped or just like a realization that you had. You're an entrepreneur as of this year, and so kind of like just a quick story about you or a client that is going to bring a smile to someone's face.
Oh my God, there's so many. Well, we teamed up because we know lifestyle change is hard, right? And so I never want to be the doctor that's just telling someone, go exercise more and sleep more. It's like, they already know that, So like, we're really there to be a community and to help. And it's so rewarding for me to see people truly getting better, because they've got the support they need to make the changes. I think my favorite interaction was probably somebody who came to the restart because they wanted to lose some weight, get a little more fit. But it turned out during the appointment that we figured out that they had really severe insomnia, like really bad. And it had been bad for probably a decade. And when people get to that point, right, where you've been struggling for a really long time, sometimes you feel like there's no fixing me, or, I've tried everything and nothing's going to work. So like, what really brings me joy, and I feel like makes it worth like getting up in the morning, so exciting for me, is when people heal things they thought they couldn't be healed. And so I checked in on this client. We both see this client regularly. Probably within 2 weeks, I would say, she was like, oh, I'm sleeping normal, sleeping a whole 8 hours, sleeping great. It's like, wait, what? You've had insomnia for like 15 years, So that was probably like the most fun for me, because I am a doctor, right? So like the medical mysteries are what hooks me, and I like want to solve them and get someone feeling better. So it's those, and there's been a couple of those instances with different things, whether it was like, like irritability or attention or fatigue, but like those are the moments when I'm like, this is so much fun.
Totally. I love it. Well, we have one more stop in this series. Thank you to Dr. Kate for being here and just talking about what she does and how that relates to the 21-day restart. So our partner in our January and February restart are a company here in Columbus called Lux and Lemons. And so they are taking the third step to our Eat Well, Move Well, Be Well part of our process. And they're providing really healthy, really delicious prepackaged meals that coincide with your meal plan, your nutritional guidelines that you're writing for the client. So we're going to be interviewing Kat Rumley. She's the owner of Lux and Lemons. And we're really excited to hear their background, how their company started. One thing I love about them is how they've partnered with you to almost curate this 21-day restart menu that goes perfectly in line with what our clients need. So it's the right serving size, it's got the right macronutrients, the right micronutrients, and so it just takes everything that they're doing and puts it into this bundle that just makes so much sense for them. And we are excited to be working with them through our December restart. And then we have 2 clients already signed up for January who are going to be ordering their meals from them. So for those of you kind of in this series, Dr. Kate has not interviewed me about what I do. I have interviewed her, and then we're going to get together and interview Lux and Lemons, and it's just going to be more information to tell you why this is a great program and why, even if you're eating well and you're in great shape, how you can still benefit from working with us, and we would love to help you. So as always, www.drkatehenry.com, right? Doctor spelled out. www.the21dayrestart.com, and then www.luxandlemons.com, and then www.invictusfitness.co. But please message us, head to our websites, fill out the contact form. We would love to hear from you. Yay, thanks, Dr. Kate. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye.
Bye.